morning. You're watching NTV today, and my name is Olive Burrows. So glad you could make the time to join us. We're following up on several stories for you, including the latest on the Ethiopian Airlines crash. We'll also be following up on the plea agreement expected to be entered into by officials of the Kenya Aviation Workers Union. That agreement would see the members of the union return to work and the officials released from police custody. Also standing by is Martin Mora in Murang'a and Oko Kusa, who is in Kisumu. We start with Martin Mora. Martin, what's the latest from Murang'a?
Well, thank you so much, Olvi. It's a good morning. It's a bright Monday morning from Murang'a County. And I just want to give you a sneak peek of what is happening in Murang'a County today. Now, maybe as you are aware, like 2 years ago, there was a free rehabilitation camp for drugs and alcoholic victims here in Murang'a. Now, from today, again, the county government is now starting to screen the addicts again for a second round of rehabilitation. The screening will take place at Ihura Stadium from, I've been told that they are going to start at around 9. You know, Murang'a County is one of the counties that has so many bars in this central region, and alcoholism has been an issue. And I think this is what has made the county to decide to come up again with a program just to rehabilitate those people who have been affected by drugs and alcohol abuse. Secondly, Olive, what we were following up on is that I think some few weeks ago, I told you that there has been our loose wild animals that has been attacking livestock in Murang'a. I'm being reliably informed that KWS will be compensating some of the families in Murang'a starting this week. So far, 3 families, their cases have gone through, have been vetted, and have been said to be genuine, and they will be compensated. Something else that is what happened, Jana. Moses Kuria, who is the Gatondo South MP, was in Murang'a yesterday to grace an event where a certain local musician was launching his album. And he raised an array of issues pertaining to the war on corruption. Olive, he said that the war on corruption is slowly derailing development in the whole country, because he said the principal secretaries and the cabinet secretaries, when the president started the war on corruption, many of them are now afraid of making decisions. Now, this is affecting development because nobody wants to sign or to be seen like he is giving the go-ahead, fearing that if anything happens, he or she will take the blame. So these are some of the issues that we'll be following up on, and we'll be coming back in a subsequent bulletin. Right back to you, Olive.
Thank you, Martin. Martin remains on those stories he highlighted. We now cross over to Kisumu, where Oko Kusa is standing by. Oko, what are you following up on today?
Olive, being a Monday right here in Kisumu, we only have one major story that we are following. Not much is happening today, but there's one serious story that we are following up today, and that regards the 16-member task force that was formed to spearhead reforms in the sugar industry. They are having a meeting today which is supposed to be graced by none other than the opposition leader and also the former Prime Minister, that's Raila Odinga. The same meeting will also be attended by the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Mwangi Kiunjuri. At the same time, we are also expecting Wycliffe Oparanya, that is the governor of Kakamega County, to also attend this particular meeting. Remember, the task force was formed late last year to spearhead reforms in the sugar industry, as I've just mentioned there, but unfortunately it has not been able to conduct its public participatory meetings, which are supposed to engage farmers on the ground in Western, Nyanza, and even at the coast, after it emerged that there was some hostilities, farmers there demanding that they must be paid their arrears to the tune of 2.7 billion shillings that the president had ordered to be paid to them. So that did not happen, and there have been a lot of controversies. We have even seen a parallel task force being formed by some disgruntled farmers and going out there to collect views from the farmers. So today we expect that that meeting that will be attended by the Prime Minister is supposed to iron out those issues that the farmers have been raising regarding its composition. So we'll be keeping tabs on that and any other story that may emerge as the day goes by, Olive.
Thank you, Kusa. Uko following up on that story, and that is sugar. Now we cross over to Bernard Ojwang, who is standing by in Homa Bay. He has in his company families who are bereaved in the Ethiopian Airlines crash. Bernard, what do they have to say?
Well, thank you very much, Oliver. We are here in Homa Bay town, Sophia village, at the homestead of one of the victims of the ill-fated Ethiopian flight that crashed yesterday in Ethiopia, just 6 minutes after taking off from the airport. Remember, Isabella Berila Chieng, commonly known as Jaboma, 31-year-old girl, a nutritionist. She used to work in Nairobi as a volunteer at Hope for Cancer Kids in Nairobi, and later by the time of her demise, she was an employee of Rasida, an NGO based in Nairobi. And during that event, we had made to understand that Isabella went to Cairo as a facilitator for a conference where she was coming back when she met the incident. And of course, we are here with the family members. We'll be talking just to tell us how did they get the information, and also they will be telling us more about Isabella. Join me, Mzee. Sorry for what has just happened. Songa karibu. How did you get the information?
I got the information from my son, the one that Isabella follows, because by noon they were expecting her to have arrived in Kenya, or to at least have texted them that she was on the way coming. But by which time she had not done that, so they got suspicious. And then there was an announcement, there was some information that an Ethiopian Airlines plane had crashed. So they got worried and started rushing to the airport to find out about whether she could be in the flight. At the same time, I think the NGO Rashida people also moved to try to establish what could have happened, because she was also they were expecting her. So then my son rang me and gave me information that they are on the process of trying to establish whether Bella was in the plane that crashed, and by 2 o'clock, by 2 p.m., it was established that truly she was in the plane. One other relative went to the Ethiopian Airlines office at the airport to check the manifest, and he established that the name of Bella Beryl Jaboma was among the people who had crashed. While the other team that went to the information desk also established, one of them was allowed in, and he was made to confirm. He confirmed that Bella was in the list of those people who had crashed.
How was Bella?
How is she?
How was he in the family?
No. Bella was you can almost describe as the fulcrum of the family, because she got normally very engaged. She's a very single opinionated lady, and she likes to make her opinion known. So most aspects of the family is involved. She gives ideas. She sometimes participates directly into issues. For example, the mother has been sick, and she has been using her knowledge in nutrition and dietetics to improve her. The mother is sick from Parkinson's disease.
So far, was the program? Have you, maybe your family, have you gone to, have you sent your people to Nairobi?
Yes, we have not sent anybody to Nairobi, but my son and the group in Nairobi, his cousins and the others, they are meeting, and I'm also planning to make it to Nairobi if possible today. Yeah, but any plan on the ground, not so far, because we have to sit down and decide. We have to go to the airport. We have to go to the people concerned to establish the situation, to know the fate, to know whether bodies are available to be ferried to Kenya, to learn quite a number of things before we sit down and make a plan. Yeah.
Sorry for what has happened. Join me here. Thank you very much. I'll speak to her brother here. Songa karibu. Okay, how did you get the information?
Okay, I got the information from my daddy. when my brother-in-law called at around 2 p.m. and it started as a result that I was sleeping in the bedroom and my elder brother Alan Jaboma rang me and he asked me where was my daddy, and I told him that daddy maybe is in his office, he's studying, and he might have left his phone in the sitting room. I went to confirm in his office and I never found daddy there. So I decided to find out from the house help, and she told me that daddy had gone to a nearby market to get some meal for mama's supper.
How was Isabella to you?
Isabella, she was very diligent, hardworking, and very honest.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Oliver, you've just heard from the family members of Isabella. They are saying that Isabella was their breadwinner. Isabella was somebody, a go-getter, and they are saying that they have lost somebody who is a special person in this family. And they are saying that from now they are heading to Nairobi, at least to join the rest of the family members, at least to get more information on what happened. Back to you, Olive.
Thank you, Bernard. Bernard will be filing a comprehensive story much later, but our condolences to Isabella's loved ones. Now we cross over to Wajir County, where Nurdin Elmoge is standing by. Nurdin, what stories are you following up on for us?
On the onset of the long drought, and it's longer days, higher temperatures hitting around 40 degrees Celsius most of the time, drying up of most of the water ponds and dams in the area, forcing pastoralists and their livestock to trek for going a distance in search of water and pasture. And what's characterized during such time is that pastoralists normally clash and over scarce water and pasture. And these will be some of the stories that we'll be following up for you today, in the coming days and weeks from Wajir.
Thank you, Nurdin. Now we follow up on the latest, as promised, on the Ethiopian Airlines crash. Ethiopia and China say they have grounded the Boeing 737 MAX 8 aircraft. Several questions have been raised. Several news outlets are following up on that particular story. The U.S. plane maker Boeing is facing questions after the Ethiopian Airlines 737 crash on Sunday killed all 157 people on board, 8 of whom were crew, and 32 of the passengers on board were Kenyan, and they perished in the plane crash. The passengers were on board a flight ET302 that was en route to Nairobi from Addis Ababa. The plane, Boeing 737 MAX, had been in operation for just 4 months before the fatal crash. NTV's Brenda Wanga reports that a delegation of senior officials is on its way to Addis Ababa to help in coordinating post-crash activities.
Hundreds of residents from the town of Bishoftu trooped to the scene of the early morning plane crash in Ethiopia. Here, 157 people lost their lives when flight ET302 came tumbling down from the skies. The plane had taken off earlier from the Bole airport in Addis Ababa, the final destination, Nairobi, Kenya. That journey terminated here in the hills of Bishoftu 6 minutes after takeoff. Although investigations are still ongoing, officials from the Ethiopian Airlines say the pilot had indicated that he was having difficulties with the aircraft. He had requested to return to Bole and had been given clearance. The Swedish flight tracking website FlightRadar24 also said that the flight had an unstable vertical speed. Airplane had 148 passengers and 8 crew members on board. No one survived the crash.
There were at least 35 nationalities, and regrettably Kenya is the highest with 32 passengers on board.
Kenya took the heaviest hit with 32 of her people on board. Canada too suffered heavy casualties with 18 of her people on board. There were 9 Ethiopians on that flight, while China, Italy and the US each lost 8 of their people in the crash. The United Kingdom and France each had 7 citizens on board, while Egypt had 6 and the Netherlands 5. Other countries who had people on board the ill-fated plane included Indonesia, Morocco, Mozambique, Uganda, Norway, Poland, Rwanda, Russia, Somalia, Togo, Sweden, Nigeria, and Spain, amongst others.
We are focusing more on the welfare of the friends and relatives of the passengers.
The ill-fated Boeing 737-800 MAX plane was one of the newly acquired carriers by the Ethiopian airline. It had had its maiden flight in October 2018. The craft is equally new in the market. It was launched only in 2016. Today's crash brings to 2 the number of accidents involving this particular plane. 5 months ago, a similar plane, a Lion Air flight from Indonesia, crashed into the sea. It was carrying 190 passengers. The plane is designed to carry a maximum of 210 passengers. The Ethiopian airline is one of the continent's biggest airlines that has taken pride in its safety records and has ambitions of becoming the leading airline in Africa. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
The heartbreaking toll of the plane crash on the families was laid bare as tens of them flocked to the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for any news of their loved ones. 2 senior Kenya Airports Authority officials, Tamarind Group Chief Executive Officer and a nun who was returning home are among the 32 Kenyans who perished in the ill-fated Ethiopian Airlines plane. Seth Olale spoke to some of the families and reports on the devastating impact of the ET-302 disaster.
The late Sister Florence Wangari Yongi took this selfie aboard the ill-fated Ethiopian Airlines flight ET-302 shortly before takeoff. Sister Wangari was returning home to renew her passport. She was on a church mission in Kisangani, DR Congo, for more than a year. Her family, led by her father Francis Yongi and her fellow sisters, arrived at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport very early to give her a welcome.
She had come here before she went to a flight to Rwanda and then to Canada. Now from Canada she was deployed for missionary work at Kisangani in Congo. Now she was coming from Congo, whether she was to board an aeroplane in Kisangani or Kinshasa, I am not sure. But she confirmed us last night that she is now in Ethiopia. She even showed us the hotel she was boarding. And then this morning, she confirmed to us that she's now entering the aeroplane.
The last time I talked to her, she told me she will be arriving at 10:15 to 10:20, according to the flight schedule. But we were here for almost an hour and a half. Then suddenly we heard about the news. So we are just hoping she did not board the plane that crashed and hoping for the best. She was so happy and eager to come back home the last time we talked to her.
Kenya Airports Authority, KAA, lost its 2 senior staff in the plane crash. Juliet Otieno was the acting general manager, Human Resource Development, while Brigadier George Rabugi was the general manager in charge of security services. Nairobi's Tamarind Tree Hotel announced on their Facebook page the demise of Group Chief Executive Jonathan Six. Former Kenya Football Federation KFF Secretary General Hussein Swale was also aboard the ill-fated plane. A source at Football Kenya Federation confirmed that Swale was returning from officiating a CAF Champions League match. Family and friends of the deceased assembled at Terminal 1D before being transferred to a local hotel where they underwent counseling before being briefed further. The venue will serve as a temporary emergency center.
0733 666 066. We kindly ask all family and friends to contact this number for further guidance related to the accident.
The Kenyan government has dispatched a team to Addis Ababa. The team, led by Principal Secretary for Transport Esther Koimet, departed from the JKIA Sunday evening. Seth Olale, NTV, at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Nairobi.
To shed more light on this disaster, we're joined by Transport CS Macharia James Macharia on phone. CS, thank you for making the time to speak to us.
Thank you.
You just held a press briefing. What is the latest from your end?
Yes, this morning we had a joint media briefing jointly with Ethiopian Airlines at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And basically, like we said yesterday, to update Kenyans and all those affected in terms of the status of the state of things regarding yesterday's unfortunate incident. At today's briefing, we basically covered four areas. One, we announced about the creation and formation of the disaster response team, which is a multi-agency team comprising of Kenya Civil Aviation Authority, the National Disaster Management Unit, the Kenya Airports Authority, the Port Health, Air Accident Investigations Unit, Ethiopian Airlines, Kenya Airways, Kenya Airport Police Unit, Immigration Department, and the Government Chemist. This multi-sector team will be chaired or led by Captain Tom Ongeche, who is the Director Air Safety at Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. Secondly, we have talked to our colleagues in Addis Ababa this morning and agreed that because Kenya is an interested party, we shall be part of the investigations as to what happened yesterday morning. And because of that, we shall be sending our Director of Air Accident Investigation, Captain Lunani, to be part of the team so that we can get first-hand information as to what happened and be able to disseminate that information to fellow Kenyans. And thirdly, because the focus should be on making sure we provide the maximum comfort and support to the families concerned, we have continued to ensure counseling facilities. As we are talking now, I'm at a counseling facility at the Sheraton Hotel at the airport, where so far the professional team of counselors have seen 26 out of the 2 families concerned. We are still now looking to see the other remaining 6 families to make sure they get all the support that they need. And finally, Ethiopian Airlines area manager did announce, like you may have heard, that they have grounded all the 737-800 MAX immediately as they do further investigations as to the cause of the accident. That's all we have to say as of now.
Okay. You talked about Ethiopia grounding the Boeing MAX 8 planes in their fleet. Do we have any of those in the Kenya Airways fleet?
No, we don't have. This is the latest of the version of 737, and Kenya Airways has not yet bought those aircrafts, no.
Okay. And how soon how soon can the bereaved families begin to claim their loved ones?
No, in fact, as of now, we are with the area manager of Ethiopian Airlines, and they are completing the details so that they can be facilitated, those who want to travel to Addis Ababa. And one of the processes we have is we have agreed with the embassy in Addis through the Ambassador Catherine Mwangi, that they'll be facilitated together with Ethiopian Airlines so that as they arrive, they'll be met at the airport, they'll be facilitated, and where possible, then they'll be able to identify their loved ones.
Okay. And I had mentioned that you would be going to Addis Ababa yourself. How long do you intend to stay there? What is the objective of your visit? And how soon can we get the next briefing?
As you know, we sent actually 2 very senior officers yesterday. My principal secretary, Esther Koimet, flew last night. And we also sent the Director Air Transport, Nicholas Bondo. And so subject to what they get on the ground, then we shall do the next step in terms of engagement.
Thank you for taking the time to speak to us, and that is the latest coming from the Transport CS, James Macharia. He says Kenya will take part in the investigations into the crash, given the huge number of Kenyans who perished in that incident. He's also said that the man who will be involved in that effort is Captain Runani. He also said that a multi-agency team has been set up to aid that particular effort, and he says 26 of the 32 families contact has been made with 26 of the 32 families. 6 families are yet to be reached, but there are efforts to reach out to them. And he also said that Ambassador Catherine Mwangi, together with Ethiopian Airlines, will make provisions for the families who are bereaved to go and identify the bodies of their loved ones. And he also did say that his PS, Esther Koimet, and several other high-level officials in the government are already in Addis Ababa. Now, staying with that story, the China aviation authorities have ordered local airlines to ground their Boeing 737 MAX 8 jets after the Ethiopian airline crash yesterday. They're not the only ones. Ethiopia has also stopped the operations of all its Boeing 737 MAX 8 fleet as it probes the cause of the crash that killed 157. Ethiopia says the measure is to ensure safety. In the meantime, Boeing has delayed plans to unveil its huge new 777X jetliner this week following the deadly crash of one of their aircrafts. Boeing was scheduled to unveil the new fleet on Wednesday. Now let's look at some quick facts about the crash. The plane took off from Bole International Airport in Addis Ababa at 8:38 a.m. It lost contact 6 minutes after takeoff and crashed at around the town of Bishoftu, that is 60 kilometers south of Addis Ababa. The flight had 149 passengers on board and 8 crew members. None survived. That total number is 157. The passengers were from 33 nations, and 32 of those on board were Kenyans. The airline group CEO said at a news conference in Addis Ababa that both the pilot, a Kenyan, and the first officer were highly experienced. The pilot has been flying the same plane since November of 2007. He also said the plane had undergone routine maintenance on the 4th of February this year. Away from the Ethiopian Airlines crash, another subject that Kenyans are talking about is, of course, the anniversary of the handshake, which was on Saturday. And this morning, we look at the state of the handshake. And to set the stage, Deputy President William Ruto has cautioned politicians keen on using the handshake to drive a wedge between him and President Uhuru Kenyatta and split the ruling Jubilee Party. This comes after allies trashed the unity deal, terming it a charade. But picking up where others left off on Saturday, the leaders who accompanied him accused ODM leader Raila Odinga of rocking the boat.
Wale wengine wakuje washirikiane na sisi, lakini wasikuje na fujo, na wasikuje na fitina, na wasikuje na kisirani ambayo inakuja kuleta matatizo katika chama ya Jubilee ama kuharibu mipango ya serikali ya Jubilee.
Tumeona mtindo ya huyu mgeni amekuja juzi akianza to criminalize the Harambee movement. Tukijenga makanisa anasema mtu yote naenda kanisani ni mwizi. Sasa hata tumeanza kuogopa kwenda kanisani. Tukijenga shule anasema mkitoa pesa kwa shule nyinyi ni wezi.
Hatujasahau the original handshake between our very able and the president that we love, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. Hata wewe mama ukiolewa na mzee wangu, huwezi kukalia ile kiti mimi hukaa. Kwa hivyo kama kuna nafasi umepewa, kampoa kam kidogo ukijua kuna mwenyewe.
And joining me to take that conversation forward are Gabriel Mudhuma, who's in studio with me, and sitting next to him is Charles Munyui.
Thank you.
So just in your assessments, first of all, how do you assess the handshake to have performed 1 year on?
Olive, thank you and good morning. You know, we cannot even start before we send our condolences to the, to the people who perished in the ET 302 and their families. So I think it is, I mean, we are all in a somber mood, as you can see, you know, Ethiopia and Nairobi, Kenya rather, you know, it was quite a tragic accident, and we continue to pray for those families. Having said that, well, the handshake is a handshake, and, you know, it's, things are actually starting to get a little bit warmer, if you will. One thing that the handshake, you know, we cannot run away from is that, in my own view, the handshake was a good thing, because it created a platform of continuity, and I'm talking about the peaceful continuity and the coexistence that we have been looking for far, far too long. That does not mean that it did not come without its own problems, and I think they had been seen on the onset. You know, the day it happened, you remember how, you know, people were acting and everybody was looking at each other with a very, you know, with very squinted eyes and wanting to know what was behind that handshake. And people, by the way, in Rift Valley, Ruto supporters who have all along believed that Uhuru would serve his 10 and leave the 10 for, you know, for Ruto, as was a plan in their Jubilee, what you would call Grand Manifesto, I started asking questions. And those questions have actually gone all the way through and through for the whole 1 year. And as we are starting to see, things are not as rosy as we thought. We thought the handshake was just a handshake and opening up an environment so business can continue, the peaceful nature or the coexistence that we are talking about, Olive, can continue. But really politics has come in and played dealt a very bad hand. Because right now what is happening, you are starting to look at politics of betrayal. That is what a certain clique of what you would call politicians are looking into, and they are saying, you know what, this handshake is no longer what we thought or what we were told it was. As a matter of fact, this has come to curtail the chances of Deputy William Ruto from attaining power in 2022. I know we are going to talk more, but at this point, that is what we are starting to look at, politics of betrayal.
Politics of betrayal. Charles, what's your assessment of, has the handshake served us well in the last year?
I believe it has, and I think that is the reason as to why all these things are coming out. And if you look at the joint communique that was there when the handshake did happen, among the issues that were raised by the two principals was the issue of sanctuary for those people that are corrupt, was the issue of how can we move forward without necessarily politics affecting our way of life, mistrusting each other as Kenyans purely on the basis of politics. And you can see that is exactly what's going on around now. Luckily, we have the BBI that is out there to identify ways of us being able to sort out these things ourselves, in terms of how can we always be talking politics, be talking betrayal, be talking this when we start dealing with issues, pertinent issues that have been bothering us over time, over a very, very long period of time. But every time we try to touch them by way of trying to sort them out or get a solution to them, then we find ourselves mark timing on the same spot, having to deal now with issues of, are you betraying me? Are you targeting me? Are you targeting my friends? Where exactly are you going with this? Is this about 2022, 2027? So I want to believe, and this gives impetus to the BBI and those people who are giving their opinions to the BBI. It should be an awakening that we still are where we were, if you ask me, to a large extent, on issues of politics affecting our way of life in all ways, in all manner of ways, if you ask me. So having said that, I think it's working. We are fighting corruption. things are happening. We have started believing institutions now. All of a sudden, everyone loves the Auditor General. Every time he speaks, we listen. In the past, we used to listen to politicians first before we listen to the Auditor General, and we dismiss him. Now the DCI all of a sudden is a very important institution. If you ask an average Kenyan, they know who the DCI is, they know the DPP, and I hope soon we will appreciate the EACC. And I think moving forward, that matters corruption. I want to believe we'll talk about this, but look at even issues, devolution, and even the summary of what they agree, the resolutions they arrived at. Things are moving in the right direction, and I want to believe, given time, the BBI will give us a report and it will interact with it, and I want to believe this handshake could not have happened at a better time.
To a large extent, I started by saying it was a good thing when it came in. And, from the onset, many people, including us, in governance, we tried understanding what is the building bridges all about. The one thing that it has brought to the fore, which I'm liking, is the fact that the president, when he was campaigning for re-election, he was talking about the 40 million, plus. He was not looking at his own area alone. And he can tell you, the president has taken a lot of slack, even in his own backyard, because of saying, you've neglected us. But the president in his campaign, he was talking about the 40 million strong, meaning that he was not going to leave anyone behind. What Building Bridges has actually done, it has actually opened that facility that the president is able to traverse almost everywhere. When was the last time, before the building bridge, not the building bridge, before the handshake, when the president would just, visit the lakeside, Nyanza? It was actually very hard. The temperatures were so high. He could not actually have gone. There are areas, actually, the president used to take a lot of heat when he would visit. Coast was one of them, and as you may remember. So the president has gone to Nyanza, not once, and he's expecting to make so many trips in Nyanza. So there is a facility that the handshake really opened. The other thing that we've been able to see is that, yes, as he's alluded, the fight against corruption is actually able. At this time, we're able to scratch the surface, and we see people who we never thought would actually be taken to confines of law, actually taken into the magistrate chambers. I never thought at one point I would see somebody like Kidero, go to High Court without a barrage of supporters coming
and you think the handshake is to credit for that?
Of course. There are people who you won't touch, because you remember, you used to touch one of them, everybody is at the DCI and DPP, and they would make this, scenario very convoluted. You are in a position where you do not know whether this is politics at play or it is actually a specific crime that happened. So the handshake really brought with it some very good things that we are able, at the very least, to scratch the surface. Matters corruption, I think, if we divorce politics from it, Olive, I can guarantee you, I think the handshake will do good in matters corruption.
Two questions then.
Yes.
One, you talk about it's taken out the politics from the war against graft, so to speak. Okay, we need to.
Yeah.
But there are leaders in the Rift who argue that this new impetus in the war on graft is actually politically motivated to block Deputy President William Ruto from ascending to the presidency.
Olive, let me tell you something, and this I said a long time ago, even before the president went for re-election. I said, for Jubilee, which is the governing administration, for Jubilee to succeed, three things must happen. One was the unity of the party. Two was the manifesto that they said they would deliver on Wanjiko. Three, most importantly, was the fight against corruption. Had nothing to do with the building bridges or the handshake. They needed to fight corruption. They need to fight corruption. They need to win the war against corruption. If at all there's something that is called legacy that's going to be left, that has to be above board. Fighting corruption is not an issue of whether Raila comes in or not. Fighting corruption or winning the war against corruption has got nothing to do with party coming together. Winning the fight against corruption, actually, as a matter of fact, has got nothing or very little to do with building bridges. Fighting or winning the war against corruption is instituting and erecting structures, like what we've already seen the president do with the office of the DPP, the DCI, and EACC, ensuring that these offices have enough resources that the minute they say, we are going to follow our good friend Olive Burrows, he are having stolen funds from Wananchi, that we are going to follow her to the logical conclusion, and most importantly, achieve convictions. Because anything else, Olive, that we are being treated to today, where somebody is, or tomorrow they are released, the bond is 500,000, they've stolen 4 billion. This is just, you know, a game in the eyes of Wanjiku. Up until when we start realizing serious convictions. That is what we were here last time, we were talking about the chicken gate. The people in Europe who are implicated in the chicken gate, they have already and they are starting to come out. Here, where are our guys? So that is the fight I'm talking about. It has got nothing to do, and this is why I'm saying we need to divorce the two. Whether or not there was a handshake, President Uhuru and Deputy President William Ruto needed or need to, even now, to win the war against corruption.
Okay. Charles, can we divorce the two, the handshake and corruption? Because you've had political leaders, I think we'll play you a story during which we'll hear Murkomen talk about political conmanship. So, but can we divorce the two? We've had leaders in the rift talking about saying this one, corruption is targeting our people.
I think that is a misunderstanding. And if you look at the communique, it did not say the government stops working now. Yes. And it's taken over by the handshake and the BBI. That's not there. It is very far from that. Because what happened with the handshake is that Raila and Uhuru came together and they said now there'll be no sanctuary for those people who are taking our money. And by extension, Kalonzo Musyoka and Ruto are in the mix because they're the principal, they're the deputies to the two, even in the elections that we had. So, and Ruto himself, the DP himself, has come out and said, I support the war against corruption. And to be honest, let us be clear. It's only about this matter of dams that it has come out so clearly that everyone now is against, especially specific friends of the Deputy President are concerned with the way it is being handled. Otherwise, the general war against corruption, everyone is in agreement that it has to happen. So it's not like the government took a back step and said now the BBI should, or the handshake should handle matters corruption. The President himself in his wisdom brought in a new DCI, brought in a new DPP, has brought in a new EACC CEO, who looks firmer and more focused on where they are going. So that institutional framework and the support that is, the requisite support that he's receiving can tell you the fight against corruption really to a large extent, in as far as the handshake is concerned, is about not anybody running to the courtyard of this leader, the other leader, and saying hide me here because these guys are coming for me. And this is exactly what's happening. I think to me what the DP must do is tell his people to carry their own crosses. I haven't seen anybody literally going to the DP and asking him, you've stolen this, you've taken this, we need to now, have you answer questions, much as is the Deputy President. And remember, even if the presidency, especially the president, is protected by the Constitution in terms of criminal proceedings, there is no way that stops anything, because ultimately at some point you'll not be the DP or the president. So if you have a situation that needs to be sorted out and it's a criminal issue, at some point in life it will come to haunt you because you'll be taken to court. I have not heard anyone saying the deputy president needs to record a statement because he has stolen this, that he was the one who had the contract to do the dams. The people around him are the ones that are looping him in so that he can come and protect them. And trust me, it's a question of sanctuary. If the DP would realize that, Kalonzo would realize that, like Uhuru, Muigai Kenyatta and Raila have done, and told their people to carry their own crosses. And you've seen people who are really close to the deputy to Raila Odinga, even to the president, being taken to the DCI, or rather going to the DCI. And remember, and this is the confusion that is there, if you're cabinet secretary, the accounting officer, because if you are the CS Treasury, you are the accounting officer. You're not just like an average CS. And you are the one who gave out this money for the other one. After being convinced that the documents and the procedures were followed, then who else should we start with when it comes to investigating how this money got lost in the first instance? Nobody has charged Henry Rotich. We don't know whether it's going to happen, but he has been told, come and shed light on who actually received this money and for what. Did you verify A, B, C, D? We don't have that report as yet. And remember, the DPP has said it is going to take slightly more time. Why is everyone so excited right now? Why can't we wait and see who gets charged and for what? Give them due process. Because even one of the rights of those people who are accused is to have due time in court, and you defend yourself. And trust me, the courts we have in this country, if there is no sufficient evidence to support a charge, then trust me, you're going to be released at some point, and then you can get compensated. At least you'll be out there saying, I'm okay, I'm vindicated, I've not done anything wrong. So I think what is happening here is that it's an issue of sanctuary. People are scared that this is coming to roost. The chicken is coming to roost very soon. And that is what the BBI is all about. And when they point at the BBI, point at the person of Raila Odinga and the whole arrangement. Remember, they started with Raila, now they've gone to the Uhuru Kenyatta. Now it's like they want to crash this, to crash the whole arrangement so that these people don't work. I think Kenyans out there should be focused and say the handshake is working. And it's not just about corruption, like my colleague has said. We are going to look at even matters devolution and the conferences and everything. That is in there, it's part of the BBI. Okay. We are going to talk about inclusiveness. Soon, and very soon, we had David Murathe saying nominations were played with. Those are things that Kenyans are talking about. Right. Remember, we talked about our ethos. As people, as human beings, we are talking about our kids out there in school and how they should behave. Remember, some people are suggesting we need to bring back the cane and capital punishment for school kids. This is what the handshake and by extension the BBI is talking about. But we want to reduce it to issues of inclusiveness by way of talking about the referendum and fighting corruption so that it dies and then nobody else will bring it up again.
Okay, Gabriel, has there been a shift? Because more and more now, we're actually seeing Raila and Ruto just come at each other more visibly. Totally. We are also seeing their lieutenants come out, and especially from the Rift Valley side of things, come out quite openly and say this thing is not working. And we've even had Elgeyo Marakwet leaders claiming that the questioning of Henry Rotich for quite so long was because they were trying to press him, push him to implicate the DP. Yeah, and then they talked about, there was no corruption in terms of the dams, the construction of the Kimwarer and Aror dams, and giving all these explanations of, you know what Raila was saying? Right. You know, the whole thing of that thief is bigger than me, sort of argument. He's a bigger thief than I am, if at all I am a thief. So why is this noise getting louder now?
Olive, if you're going to talk about the politics of these two individuals, that's the former Prime Minister and the current Deputy President, William Ruto, it has not started with a handshake. It started some time, ago. And you remember, as we came into the re-election, at one point, the NASA Brigade was actually so hard on the Deputy President that in some of their campaigns they were saying, we do not have a problem with Uhuru. We have a problem with that, number 2, of Uhuru. And at one point, Deputy President will look at them and say, okay, if you have a problem with me, vote for Uhuru. So I think we've not seen the end of it. Things may become a little bit murkier as we move along, and it's probably not what we would need at this point, because of, of the economic setup that's currently going on. We are not doing well regionally, in matters economy. So I think we should continue harnessing this environment. I'm just sorry that it's going to be, taken over by politics and the succession politics of 2022. And I'm really hoping that this is something we should have kept out on the side for the next 3 years, for at least we have at least an environment where we can work and at least achieve some of the things like the big 4, what the president wants to leave as part of his legacy. But having said that, I think what probably I would really point to when this issue of the dams, and I know this is quite a very intricate issue as we talk about, my only problem is, and we've done this for far too long, is that most of the time when you inject politics in such things, facts by nature disappear. If you ask any common Kenyan right now, if you ask them what are the facts of this dam, very few people will tell you. You know why? Because we have not found somebody who's coming out with real core facts that we can understand. The CS, Rotich, has not really made what you'd call a good explanation to Kenyans, and probably he does not need to at this point because there's something under investigation. The government spokesman, I don't know whether that office still exists, has not come to say anything about these dams. When the Deputy President speaks, we are saying he is doing politics. We've actually, to be fair to him, we've actually said something which he did not say. When he talked about the money in question is only 7 billion, we started asking him, so you are saying the 7 billion is what has been lost. You see, these are some of a few things. It's just like taking out of context what so
you believe people have taken his remarks out of context?
And it's not the first time.
He did not. So he did not basically say the 7 billion is lost.
No. He made that very clear. Are there questions to these issues of the dam? Yes. Do we need answers? Yes. As taxpayers, we need these answers. And not only as taxpayers, what actually is a little bit murkier, Olive, we have borrowed this money from the African Development Bank. We are stealing money. If money is lost, we will have stolen money that we have taken as a loan, which is worse. I'd wish it's money that has come from the exchequer. I'm not saying we should condone, but it would have been better. It could have been understood if not tolerated. But now this is a loan we've gotten. We've stolen a loan that we've gotten. So you see how the situation is becoming. It is the same way where facts are getting eroded and we don't know what the truth is. It's the same way, you remember when Ambassador Amina said we are coming for the health of people. See how she was taken out of context. What she meant was the people who are working and are not paying. We have become a nation whereby, you know, we can take something that you've just said and we amplify it. It becomes so big that we drown you, the person who said it and what you meant, that the next time you hear it, we're actually accusing you of something I said. And I think this could be the situation. One thing probably which must come out clear, and I think this is a service that must happen to the nation, is to explain clearly. The DCI has a part to play, and so does the DPP. But at the end of the day, if money is lost, and I'm not talking only on the Kimora, on the dams, if money is lost, then we still have the handshake and we still have the jitters, we still have politicians going neck to neck with one another, no conviction, you know. You do not need politicians standing on a platform to, you know, chastise one another. What we do need is to know, are these dams or are these projects progressing? It's not the dams alone. Are they progressing? Is there money lost? And if money is lost, who is taking the fall? And after taking the fall, who spends time in prison? Do we get restitution? Do we get our money back? That is how we are going to win this war against corruption.
Okay, now Charles, we'll come back to you. We need to take a break. But when we come back, I'd like us to examine what the DP has said on the subject. He's talked about how when we talk of NYS, we talk of billions. But when we go to court, it's a matter of 100 millions, you know, not the billions that were quoted. And his question was, then what happened? You know, people wonder then what happened to the amounts we were talking about. So is it defeatist, you know, when we play politics with corruption? We'll come back with that. Remember, you can share your thoughts on @NTV Kenya. My handle is @Burrows. Welcome back. You're watching NTV Today, and as we keep on the Ethiopian's airline crash story, we're also looking at the handshake, which is another matter that is dominating national conversation. And joining me in studio is Gabriel Muduma and Charles Munyui to take that political conversation forward. We're talking about facts and figures in the war against graft, because the DP has talked about the sensational numbers that are splashed on the headlines. But in actual fact, when people are arraigned in court, the amounts are much less. But Charles, you're of the opinion that there are billions that have been stolen, and what Kenyans need is shock value.
It is true. And let me tell you what, the problem in this country is that we want to believe that our money is not lost to an average Kenyan out there that you see on a daily basis on national television or in this hotel or the other one. It's small green men from Mars that come and take our money. The reality is the people you are faced with every single day out there are the people who are taking the money. First and foremost, there is no dam in that place. Nothing has happened in that place. Whether 7 billion has changed hands, and it's a year plus later. Nothing, completely nothing has happened. So there is no way you're going to tell me there is no loss that has happened. Even in terms of public procurement and disposal act and procedures therein, and what is supposed to happen the moment you get a tender. We are saying,
I listened to the Elgeyo Marakwet leaders over the weekend,
Yes.
and their argument was compensation has yet to be made to the owners of that land. That is why nothing has happened yet. And they blame President Uhuru Kenyatta's government for delaying the compensation process.
Let me understand how you proceed with the procurement process when you don't have the land. What is the item on the plate so that you start the program? You cannot construct using CDF money a classroom on a piece of land that does not have title. Right. You don't have title to that land. Right. So let us stop playing games with ourselves. Some of us understand basic law or general law. Public procurement and disposal laws are so clear that you cannot start a process until you have where the project is going to be by way of legally owning it.
So no payments should have been made?
It should have been made if there was payment, or there should have been no project allocation in the first instance. Especially there should have been no starting of procurement procedures by way of tenders and everything being floated and someone winning the tender and even receiving money when there is no land on which they're supposed to construct whatever it is that they're supposed to construct. That is the bottom line. People are playing games. They are throwing information out there in the public domain, and they know Kenyans don't have that time to interact with all this information that they are receiving. The only thing they will hear is that there is no land. They will not ask themselves, what is the process here before we get to even paying someone who is supposed to construct a dam? What is supposed to have happened? So my take is, money has been lost consistently in this country, and until Kenyans are thrown into the mix where they follow up on what's going on a daily basis, get frustrated at times because they think it's getting worse. It is not getting worse, trust me. If you have ever been affected by malaria, the first time you take the medication for malaria, you get even sicker. Kenya is sicker today because now we have a solution, and that solution has to be pushed down our throats. The bottom line is, if we don't push it down our throats, we'll never get well. Actually, we're going to die as a country. This money cannot continue being lost this way. We know, we appreciate. Some of those thieves will get away with it because they are out there. I'm not blaming this one or the other one, but I'm saying now that we have started this process, it is only fair to ensure we support the institution, the requisite institutions, so that they can be able to deliver. And I'm saying, for the first time in the history of this country, right now we are listening to the Auditor General. People like myself and Muduma used to bash him. Every time we have an opportunity, we used to say, that guy is just attacking us because we are supporting Jubilee. Because he's attacking Jubilee, he's attacking PNU because he's this, he's the other one. And I'm not talking about this particular Auditor General. I'm saying historically, every time we have a report from that is not friendly to the government, people will bash it. If you have a report that is not friendly to the opposition, those in the opposition will bash it. We are saying we need now to stop relying on politicians to tell us this has not been stolen. Why can't we rely on the investigating arm that will actually bring on board people who have been... The guys who are being invited is not Muduma. No. Is someone who is actually sitting in a public office, being paid by the public to do stuff for the public, and money has been lost, not because of necessarily what he has not done, his negligence or otherwise, but money has been lost. That's the bottom line. And people You cannot question anyone else. You start by questioning that particular person so that it leads you to where everyone else is that has either taken this money, misappropriated it, or whatever it is. So let us relax as Kenyans. Let us appreciate that nobody is being picked from the streets to come and get questioned. These are people who are employed as Kenyans. The first article of the Constitution is very clear. All that authority they exercise is ours. It's only that we've donated it to them to exercise, whether they are in the legislature, judiciary, or the executive. So if you're an employee of the executive, then appreciate that if you mess, then the DCI whom we have employed as Kenyans will come for you. And if he has information, sufficient information to sustain a charge as believed by the DPP, then you'll be taken to court. Luckily, we are not China where you get shot. You'll be taken through due process, and if you are found to be guilty or culpable, then you'll go to court and we'll get our compensation. And I think that's where we need to loop in Kenyans to this and tell them it's going to be a run. It's not a joke. It's going to be something that it's a marathon. It's going to take time. It's not something that is going to be instant coffee. Can you sustain this fight against corruption as Kenyans? Make noise on social media. Continue watching what's going on. Don't get frustrated. There are people who want you to believe this fight is about politics. Thank you very much. It could be. You never know, but the long run and the ultimate is people are stealing money, have been stealing money.
And that's,
okay, Gabriel,
you know,
let me pose this to you. We've had the DP come out and say he's the only politician that's been subjected to a lifestyle audit in the media. Yeah, and he was asking the question why. Yeah. But if he has nothing to hide, then why is he usually so evasive when it comes to questions of his net worth?
You know, only that is actually a conversation which I also had the Deputy President, you know, get grilled also in the UK. I've also had somebody from this media station actually who was invited to DP's home ask him the very same question: have you ever been corrupt? And DP looked in the camera and said no. You see, the issue is not the Deputy President saying no or yes. The issue is, can we prove this? The officers that are mandated by the Constitution and by the law to investigate him, can they win a case and prove that the Deputy President is corrupt? Anything else is excitement. And that's why I'm saying, even when we sit down here and talk about stolen billions, which we know are lost, at the end of the day, it's like what my good brother has said. There is the burden of proof. Okay? Whoever alleges must prove. All right? Yeah. So anything else is excitement. Up until when the DCI takes somebody to court and say, I am going to furnish this court with all this evidence, and my friend, you're going down. And true to the fact that court sustains a prosecution, and the man is told you are going to serve 40 years. Now, that is where we can sing and celebrate. Other than that, it is celebration. I mean, it is excitement. That is just excitement. That's a problem. You know, we can look at it as a problem with our judicial system, or we can accept it as fact. Is the Deputy President corrupt? That is a conversation we can have from here to Timbuktu. But the question is, how powerful then is this person that the judicial system in this country cannot put him behind bars? Is the president corrupt? Like he said, if you have anything against me, go to Karura Forest, the officers of DCI. If we have somebody saying, Mr. President, you have stolen 1, 2, 3, avail yourself. You know, the issue is not about holding a microphone and saying he is, or my good brother is corrupt, or Olive is corrupt. The issue is sustaining it through a court of law. Unless, up until then, we change our constitution and say, if I feel you're corrupt, we shoot you at Uhuru Park. But we cannot do that. So that, I think, that underlies how we are going to play, or we are going to be discussing this war against corruption.
Okay.
Only really,
so,
at the end of the day, we need to run away from something. And this, I want to put it here. And it's a very good example. I learned a long time ago. The Al Capone Chicago used to do something called misdirection. What would they do? They would create a crime scene. They would create a crime scene before it happens.
Is that the mafia?
Yes, the mafia. This is the Al Capone Chicago. What they would do, he will be a shoe shine on the side. You would be selling your wares out in the street, somebody else would be doing something. A mob boss comes to his favorite coffee shop. He is shot by 3 people. They get into a black car and they go. The people who are there were planted to create a crime scene. It's called misdirection. What would happen? When they've left, the police have come. They would give a false evidence to misdirect the police. Oh yeah, we saw the person who did it. He drove in a white car. What would the police be chasing? A white car. Yet the people who did the crime went in a black car. Oh, so many other things. So it is the very same thing I feel. We are playing politics of misdirection when it comes to corruption. And guess what? We are going to be chasing the whirlwind for a very long time if we continue in that kind of politics. And that's why I'm saying evidence is key. I do not want somebody being kamatwad on Friday and released on a Monday and he forever goes away from the judicial elements of this country. I want somebody held. Yes, they get the bail as part of their constitutional right, but then again, when they are brought into court, this person serves time in prison. That in itself will excite Kenyans.
Okay, but then my question to you is this. We had President Uhuru Kenyatta saying stop prosecuting matters of corruption in funerals and, you know, and in these public gatherings, if you have any evidence of graft against myself, because we had people saying, you know, we also know your side, we also know that you have some dirty linen in your closet. So he said if you have proof, it's quite simple. Go to the DCI headquarters on Kiambu Road, submit your evidence. But there's still the question of where was he when all these billions were being stolen? You've both made the concession that there are billions that have been stolen. There are those people who are now
we cannot have
asking that question. Yes, Charles, asking that question. Where was the president? Does he bear some responsibility?
I think the president has come out very clearly on the fight against corruption. The timing might be such that it's belated, a little belated, but it's happening. He's the first president to pursue this in a concerted way, in a believable way, to the extent that he has sacked cabinet ministers and PSs, and he has stopped others from working. And I'm sure shortly after this, I'm not holding brief for him, but I have a feeling shortly after this, others will go home and others will come in. My only concern with the president, His Excellency, is that he's recycling some of the people that are a problem in the first instance. Because if you look at the boards, for instance, the same people that are a problem. And when you see people that are broke in the streets, getting into a board where there is no salary, ask yourself what's going on. Because those guys will go there, they'll maneuver, they'll micromanage the procurement procedures. 2 minutes later, they'll be very rich around town. So even the president must be aware, every time you recycle the same fellows that have been a problem for this country. We have a lot of capable Kenyans in this country who can be fit in those shoes and deliver in those boards without necessarily getting corrupt. And even cabinet secretaries, PSs, he needs now to move away from the normal faces that we see on television every day and bring in other people that are competent enough and that have not been touched by all these things. And that's a fact. Now, having said that, we cannot take it away from the president and by extension Raila now that for the first time there is a concerted effort towards fighting graft. And the realization, and I will go back to the BBI and the communique that was there, is that the biggest challenge in the fight against corruption was sanctuary. That every time you pick someone for investigation, even before you touch them, they are protected by so many lawyers, by so many politicians, like now what's going on around just about right now. So the moment they came together and they started saying now, from now henceforth, sanctuary would be a problem. If only other leaders would join in, especially the top-notch leadership of this country, and say sanctuary no, because I cannot remember anybody specifically saying this is the issue of corruption as far as the deputy president is concerned. Himself, personally. The only issue that has always been there is the Weston Hotel. And he has come out and said, this is a hotel I bought. And it might the source of or the person who gave me the hotel might have played funny games, but in as far as I'm concerned, I didn't play any games. And even National Land Commission has confirmed there were actually no games around in as far as the deputy president is concerned and his team in terms of buying the hotel. The issue was, now that we know that that hotel should not have been disposed of the way it was, where do you come in as the deputy president? But give me a specific situation where someone has said, William Samoei Ruto stole this. Nothing, but his cost gestures, because they are, most of them are guilty, I want to believe, are the ones that would like his name in here, dragged alongside theirs, because that way they know he's a better swimmer. He'll be able to swim and pull them. And that's what's going on. Trust me, there's nothing else to it. If only the DP would cut off that and tell them, can you take care of your issues right now? I'm not interested in what you're doing. Don't drag me through the mud. Trust me, he would walk out a cleaner person. Otherwise, the moment he goes, argues with the CS in charge of Treasury, who has actually disbursed these monies, who is saying is 20 billion or 21 billion or whatever it is, and the deputy president is talking about 7 billion. It's not about the money that has been lost. It's about the money that has left Treasury.
Correct.
Into the specific areas that it's going to. So why would you want to go there? Why would you want to allude to go back to the NYS and tell us we have seen this happening? You're in government. You know, so if you're uncomfortable with the way government works, I think there is in the cabinet or in any other place, you can be able to say, I don't think we are going about it in the right way, if you're that uncomfortable. And at that time, nobody said anything. NYS, the deputy president, has been at the forefront in the fight on matters NYS. In fact, he's one of the very critical guys when it comes to matters NYS. So I would be surprised that he's using the same to justify a situation whereby now we should slow down on these figures that we are talking about. I want Kenyans to hear these big figures. Because the reason as to why we don't have hospitals, those guys at Kimara don't have that dam, is because they are selfish individuals. Tell me, my dear, would you not want to know whether it is for real towels were supplied?
Yeah, and towels.
What were the towels for? To wipe yourself after you dig? You know, like you manually digging a dam? And bed sheets and stuff like that? Would you not want to know, as a Kenyan, an average Kenyan, whether those towels cost 20 million or 5 million or 3 million or 500,000 shillings? Would you not want to know what's going on here? Because that is the kind of impunity we've been talking about for this country. And until Kenyans appreciate that the level of impunity that has been there in terms of stealing our money is amazing. It's totally amazing, and it's almost comical, if you ask me. It's like they don't care what we think. They do things that would amaze an average person. So towels for real? What else should we want to know, should we know, if we dig slightly deeper?
Okay. All right, gentlemen, I'll come back and continue with that conversation. But do you agree with Charles and do you agree with Gabriel? Because the Twitter handles are at Muduma Gabriel and at Munyui Charles. Yeah. Mine is at Burrows. You can also reach us on at NTV Kenya. The hashtag is NTV Today. But for now, we cross over back to Okokusa in Kisumu, where a task force on the sugar sector is meeting. Raila Odinga is among those who are expected to be in attendance, as is Agriculture CS Mwangi Kiunjuri. Oko, have they arrived?
Yes, Olive, they arrived as early as 7 in the morning, and as we speak now, there's a closed-door meeting going on, which is being attended by the former Prime Minister himself, the CS, and a couple of governors, including Wycliffe Oparanya of Kakamega. Remember, Wycliffe Oparanya is the chairman of this government-formed task force. And, of course, there's also a number of MPs, member of parliaments from the sugar-growing regions. So that meeting is going on right now. From there, then they'll head to the big hall where they're going to give us updates on what has happened so far. Remember, this task force was formed late last year and was supposed to spearhead reforms in the sugar industry. But after meeting for some time, they were supposed to get down to conduct public participatory meetings with the farmers on the ground. But that failed to happen after they realized that there was some hostility that was coming from the farmers as regards to some 2.7 billion shillings that the government had awarded to take care of farmers' arrears. So that public participatory meetings didn't happen. But at the same time, there was a parallel task force that was formed by a section of disgruntled farmers led by members of the Kenya National Alliance Sugarcane Farmers Association, led by a former Webuye member of parliament, that is Saulo Busolo, who were not pleased with the constitution of the government-formed task force. They were saying that the people who are sitting in that 16-member task force are not representing the face of farmers in Western, South Rift, Nyando, and South Nyanza sugar zones. So they came up with a parallel task force that has been going around meeting farmers, conducting those public participatory meetings. They began on January 28th and ended their nationwide tours on February 7th. with a meeting with farmers in Kwale, and they have prepared a report which they say they'll be presenting to President Uhuru Kenyatta in a few weeks' time. In that report, they are saying that they have recommendations collected from farmers, one being that the farmers are opposed to what has been come to be known as zoning. Zoning, remember, is a debate that has been happening in the sugar sector, where farmers are being sort of compelled, as they say, those who are opposed, saying that they are being compelled to sell their produce to specific millers in their cultivating regions, and the farmers are opposed to this kind of a thing. In the same report, they also the Saulo-led task force is also saying that the farmers are calling for the merging of sugar factories that are close by. They're saying that some of these sugar mills should be merged. And again, they are also saying that during their fact-finding mission, they came to understand that farmers are proposing or supporting the move by the government to privatize some of these sugar mills. So that is, in a nutshell, is what the Saulo-led task force is saying. But here on the government task force, which is yet to kick off these public participatory meetings, we are yet to understand when these are going to happen, because they, as I mentioned there, they were supposed to have started in January, but that did not kick off due to those grievances regarding payments and stuff like that. So this task force was supposed to spearhead reforms in the sugar industry, and when we talk of spearheading reforms in the sugar industry, we are talking of regulating pricing mechanisms in the sugar sector. At the same time, they were supposed to review importation of sugar, and at the same time look at taxation structures. Those are some of the emotive subjects that have been affecting or bedeviling the sugar sector. And then at a miller level, they were supposed to look at the mismanagement in the state-owned sugar mills. At the same time, they also to check out on the obsolete structures that form part of these sugar mills. Remember, Miwani has been not been working for quite some time due to obsolete equipment. Same to Muhoroni, which has been teetering on the brink of collapse at some point, working on and off due to those equipments that have been declared sort of obsolete and need replacement. And so those are some of the issues that have the sugar task force, the government formed sugar task force, was supposed to look at as they check out on the reforms that the president ordered towards the end of last year. But unfortunately, the collecting views from the farmers has not happened, and so today we expect that will be on top of the agenda on how to reach an agreement with the farmers to allow this government-led sugar task force to move out there into the ground and collect its views. The same way the parallel sugar task force that was formed by those farmers that were disgruntled by the composition of the task force, the government-led task force, has done and has given out their recommendations. So we'll be here to keep you updated on what is happening. We know that in a few minutes' time they'll be moving to the main hall. That is where we are going to get all the speeches from the leaders who are attending this particular meeting here in Kisumu. Back to you, Olive.
All right, thank you, Uko. Uko enduring the hot sun to bring us that story on the sugar sector. Now back to handshake matters. My question is this. You both seem to agree that the handshake has been good for the war on corruption.
Yes.
But then we had the Kapenguria Member of Parliament speaking on Saturday, and that's Samuel Moroto, saying, for example, if you just look at Parliament, both sides are in bed, so to speak, with one another, so there's none to hold the other to account. Are his concerns valid?
By the way, those concerns are quite valid. And they are quite valid because, you see, we are going to, my worry is that we are going to epitomize this corruption.
Okay, actually, let's actually listen into those remarks so that we can, it can set the stage.
Public Account Committee na PIC ambayo na deal na investigation, they are totally dead now. Kwa sababu hakuna mtu wote sasa imekuwa serikali moja. Hakuna mwenye atangalia huyu alikulaje. Kila mtu anataka kula sahihi. Ukizungumza lugha ya Mbadi ambaye ni leader of minority, na huyu mwingine anaitwa yetu ya Jubilee na Adwale, hakuna species maneno anazungumza.
Muduma, you are saying his concerns are valid.
Totally. And you see, like what Munyu said, you know, he said, he actually made a very good argument that we have two offices that should actually be left to deal with matters corruption. Because from the onset we can say, you know what, they have a bird's eye view of information probably we may not have. Information, when a politician will get that information, though, it will be diluted. So the DCI and the DPP have a very good vantage point on dealing with matters, albeit the fact that we are looking at them as independent officers. In fact, if they were to tell us or give us information about things like the dams that we are talking about, it would be more valid, it would make more sense than a politician talking in a funeral. Because when a politician talks, it is politics. It's mad in politics. We do not know when to distinguish fact from fiction or his imagination. So the DPP and the DCI, what we expect are facts behind accusations. That's why I said, you allege, you prove. The person who alleges, if the DPP at this point alleges, like what we saw with CS Rotich, we expect, as Kenyans, to see a raft of evidence that will be filed against him. That is what we least expect. Our politicians will just talk and that will be it. Another office must come in and do the work. So the PIC, when he talks about the PIC and PAC, these are the very same people who are taking 10,000 shilling bribes in toilets. I mean, and again, this is not me saying, these are facts. They told us into this. As a matter of fact, they are the ones who told us, our friends, and they came to me giving me 10,000. This is the kind of parliament we are talking about. Are we actually going to give them the faith that they are going to sustain this war on corruption? I don't think they will. That is why my concern, and that one of probably when you hear, is that these two institutions are funded very well so that they can come up with ironclad evidence that when somebody goes to court, the evidence is so ironclad, or it is so conk that that person cannot walk. What our good member of parliament is saying is quite true. It's quite honest and it's quite valid to answer your question. The only thing I think parliament must sit down and look for ways to just fund the institution that the president has pointed his hands to. Today, I mean, no pun intended to the previous holders of those offices, but if you would have asked somebody who was a former DCI, very few people will tell you it was Ndegwa Mohoro, you know, and he was there for, so you end up asking yourself, you know, what was he doing there? You know, we know Keriako Tobiko was there for quite a long, again, no pun intended to him, but look at the work that is, you know, that is happening now. You can tell something is happening. And again, not to water it down to what the president has done with these two institutions. When he was so serious that he removed the former office holders and he put in these two individuals. To me, they are doing a strategic, they are doing a very good work, if you ask. But also at the end of the day, that will not be enough for Njiko. I'm sorry to say. Up until a time, Olive, where we see convictions, everything else will just be play. I'm telling you.
Sure.
Yes.
I want us to look at the Mandazinomics that DP Ruto talked about. Yes. And he made this accusation against the gentleman he accuses of Vitendawili,
yes,
Raila Odinga. And he said this guy came to us and talked about Eurobond. Yeah. Was unable to prove that money was stolen. He said this guy came and gave us these figures where this and this was concerned. The amounts in question are much less than what he alleged. So, but Raila, you have Raila on the other side. When he speaks on corruption in public, he goes, "Say, I told you this is happening, and I told you this is happening." And there are those who, of course, believe that when Raila says something, even if he tells you the gender of your unborn child, it is
just start buying. Just start buying.
Raila is a politician.
The gender that will
yes.
emerge. So, who between the two is telling us the truth and who between the two is lying? Or is it half truths, half lies?
Only before I go there, if you allow me to even touch on what the Mheshimiwa has said, the PAC and the PIC. I think Parliament is a very important institution when it comes to the fight against corruption, in spite of their weaknesses, because even they have found themselves in a new dispensation where actually corruption is being fought, and they need to fit in very, very quickly, because all the laws that we are relying on, by the way, will ultimately come from Parliament, have actually come from Parliament. The weaknesses, in as far as the specific laws are concerned, will only be addressed through Parliament. And you've had no less a person than the Chief Justice alluding to the fact that the weaknesses in terms of matters law are some of the reasons that you find you charging an individual and then 2 minutes later they're out there in the street. So I think much as the Mheshimiwa is concerned about the fact that now there is no one to check anybody else, Parliament weakened itself consistently when they only kept talking about money for themselves, and the average Kenyan out there lost faith in them. Otherwise, if you look at the number of reports they have given out, and not necessarily PIC or PAC, or generally just about any committee of Parliament has a report that needs implementation by the executive, you will find most have never been implemented. And until recently, when we saw now a lot of other things, especially around the sugar issue, and Parliament went to another law. It went to an all-time low in terms of the faith the Kenyans have. But to me, it's a very important institution. Let the PIC remain as it is. Let those continue churning out those reports that they are giving. Remember, at the end of the day, even if they go to slumber or to sleep, we still have the government to exercise its mandate through the different departments, like my colleague has said, the DCI, the DPP, the EACC. Prosecution will happen, whether Parliament functions or doesn't function, but we need them to take care of the laws that are there. In terms of the Mandazinomics and the fact that Raila is not believable, I have sat on this chair in the past, especially before election, because I was supporting Jubilee and really bashed him. But deep down, you realize this guy could be right. The Eurobond is still a mystery. We have never known exactly what happened. So I wouldn't even want to touch it because I have no facts and no figures. But he talked about it and everyone panicked. And no less a person than Rotich himself was trying to explain how the dynamics of how the Eurobond works. So whether it was factual or not at that point, we might never get to know. But the bottom line, and I think this is what makes me happy, is that the moment you get saved, if you are Christian, I practice the Christian faith myself, people tend to forget everything else you've done because now you're a better person, you're a good person, they can trust you. Of course, they want to watch whether they can trust you, but ultimately they trust you, and you've seen people opening churches, the good ones, and preaching, and other people get saved. My point is this. When we start the fight against corruption, it's not about 2 weeks ago who was believable, who was not. It's about now who is working with us in this particular fight. And I think this is where we the point of departure for a lot of people, because you cannot keep taking us to 20 years ago, what happened 5 years ago, because we can go slightly back and say, you, William, as the deputy president, was working with Raila Odinga, and you believed in him and you trusted him and you protected him. We can even say at one point Raila sacked you, or rather had you sacked or you had terminated you, and then you were taken back to your position by Kibaki. And Raila had talked about you and corruption, and these are the issues. So we don't want to go backwards because we'll open a lot of cans of worms that we don't want to. What Kenyans are interested in right now, today, is what's going on right now, what has been happening in the last few years. Having said that, I wish Kenyans would take advantage of the laws that are there, because, and I want to believe it's happening. If you look at the EACC, people don't know that you can actually go to the EACC if you know you've collected money and illegally, if you've been corrupt and you've collected 5 million, you can return your 5 million to EACC, and they will not necessarily have to prosecute you. All they need to is for you to give information on how it went down. All of it went down. And I wish, because at the end of the day, what we would want is to recover our money. The other thing is we need the same parliament to tell us why, when it's clearly provided for. And I saw the Nation articulating that yesterday, and I was really impressed. And it was by Wakili, I can't remember. And he was saying the law is very clear. The Economic Crimes and Anti-Corruption Act is very clear that in the event you are guilty, found to be guilty of a crime related to corruption, then over and above the fine, you are supposed to repay twice the amount that is lost, either by yourself because a benefit was conferred upon you, or because of what you could have done or not done, what you should have done or not done, we lost money. What is happening with the courts? And I think that's those are the questions we need to ask ourselves, so that at the end of the day, we recover our money and slightly some more, so that it becomes preemptive for people who would want to steal from us. So whether, to me, in terms of believability, I want to believe those two gentlemen, Raila Odinga and William Samoei Ruto, should actually sit down somewhere, have some secondary handshake, and tell us now they are willing to work with the Kenyans, because Kenyans are clear. And as far as the fight is concerned on corruption, it must be won.
Okay. So now I want to now look at what the handshake means for the Jubilee Party, because you have Raphael Tuju, who comes out and says, you know, this disgruntled voices, it's just democracy within the party. We had Moses, okay, I know Moses Wetangula is not in Jubilee, but he was saying this sort of rhetoric is not good for the nation. Right. The Raila and Ruto going for the jugular. Previously, we had a lot of denials, you know, that there's any problem within Jubilee. There is no problem within Jubilee. Now, they've conceded that there is a fox, allegedly, in the hen house, and the fox by way of Raila Odinga. So, but first, let's hear what Raila Odinga had to say on the subject, because he was saying the handshake is not about 2022 politics, and it's not about dividing a Jubilee party. And we had Murkomen now coming in and saying it is about bringing a wedge or putting a wedge between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And William Ruto. Let's listen into that.
Exactly 1 year after his famous handshake with President Uhuru Kenyatta on the steps of Harambee House, opposition leader Raila Odinga has defended the political truce. Odinga says the deal has benefited the country in many ways, and not just the two of them.
Generally, the two of us are not in this because there's anything we want to gain from it. Uhuru wanted to leave a legacy. And I told him, the way things are going, there will be no legacy you're going to leave. You will leave a more divided country than the one you found. So we're not in this here looking for positions in the future. We are not even targeting anybody. This is bringing everybody together.
But leaders allied to Deputy President William Ruto have chosen the first anniversary to rubbish the handshake. Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen led other leaders from the Rift Valley in calling the handshake nothing but a charade.
We are celebrating 1 year of deceit. We are celebrating 1 year of political conmanship, a strategy of purported handshake, whose intention is only to fight one person, not to ascend to political office.
Kama hii handshake ndio imekuja kutuharibu, wachana na handshake. Wachana nayo kabisa, kwa sababu kama handshake inakuja, unafanya handshake kwa upande moja na kuharibu upande mwingine. Handshake tunataka ikuwe handshake ya kila mtu.
The Deputy President steered clear of the handshake talk in his tour of Kilifi County. However, the leaders who accompanied him have called the handshake a deal between just two people. They say it has not benefited Kenyans in any way.
Wamtafutesha juu mwanaye akampe mkono Uhuru Kenyatta. Alafu Kalonzo, Mudavadi na Raila wa handshake. Alafu Ruto na Raila na wale wengine wote wa handshake. Kwa sababu handshake kufikia leo mwaka mmoja haina maana yoyote, na nasema bila uoga.
Tuliimba sisi hapa Eurobond, Jubilee imeiba. Tukasema Kilindini inauzwa. Tukasema SGR inachukua kazi. Tukasema zile hati miliki za ardhi ni gushi. Lakini leo baada handshake tumehalalisha kila kitu. Tulikuwa tunawaambia kweli nyinyi wananchi?
Handshake hii itakapoanza juu hata iwe mbinguni, lazima iendelee mpaka kwa mwananchi wa chini, watu wote waishi kama kitu kimoja katika nchi yetu hii ya Kenya, ili Kenya ende mbele.
The March 9th, 2018 deal was anchored on 9 points which the president and his political foe-turned-friend said would mark the turning point for the country. The two leaders formed a committee dubbed the Building Bridges Initiative, which has been going around the country collecting views from Kenyans. Edmond Nyapola, NTV.
So,
let me laugh. Let me laugh.
Yeah. Why are you laughing, Gabriel?
You know, first of all, before actually we talk the handshake, let's wrap up the corruption, because this, actually majority of this what these politicians are talking about. he swayed into the corruption deal, and I feel it's just this dam. Like when you said, the dams are the ones really that brought everything to the fore. Olive, if you look, and if you're to be honest, has Raila been accused of corruption? Yes. Has Ruto been accused of corruption? Yes. Has Kalonzo? Yes. Has Mudavadi? Yes. Has Wetangula? Yes. Has Uhuru? Yes. It is very out of place at this point to really accuse William Ruto, who is in the presidency, and these are just facts, without actually pointing a finger to President Uhuru Kenyatta. Why am I saying this? They are part of the presidency. It would then mean one of them is corrupt, and by design that makes the presidency a corrupt institution. All right? So I think we go back to where we left this matter. Divorce politics out of it. Let the institutions that are mandated by law to follow these things, because that's the only way we can get back. The president actually made a very good point, which I do not want that point, to run away from many Kenyans. And he said, if these institutions, if we are not going to do something about this corruption, the Mwananchi will. And he didn't dig deeper as to what the Mwananchi would do. But anything else that people are imagining could actually be realized. And that is how revolutions begin. So what was the president saying, and what was he insinuating? He was saying that all these departments that are there to fight corruption must stand to be counted. That includes the judiciary. The judiciary does not get a free meal this time. They must work for it. They must show that the people who come in there, and evidence, if evidence is actually an ironclad evidence, they must do what is necessary, and people must be sent to prison. That is the only way what the president was taking as an alternative may not come to pass. The handshake
Gabriel,
very quickly.
Yes. I want to play one more clip so that we just wrap it up. We just have about 5 minutes before we need to finish up. And here is the response to the Murkomen camp.
The Director of Public Prosecutions described the investigations in the 21 billion shillings dam scandal as complex. The Treasury CS Henry Rotich was questioned for 3 days with sources within the DCI, telling NTV that 75% of the questions were in regards to procurement issues. In its new trail, the DCI is said to be looking into calling the Kerio Valley Development Authority bosses afresh, especially those involved in the tendering, as a follow-up to the issues raised by the CS Rotich. The Aror and Kimorer dams have been the subject of investigations by relevant agencies and a topical issue for politicians. 65 billion shillings is the money in question. Letters seen by NTV show that 7.6 billion shillings was paid to CMC di Ravenna Itinera JV, the Italian company that was given the contract to construct the two dams. For the Aror Dam, PS Ministry of Devolution and Planning Irungu Nyakera wrote a letter on 20th December 2017 requesting Treasury to release 4.2 billion shillings as advance payment, which was part of the contractual agreement for the contractor to start work. For the Kimorer Dam, the Ministry of East African Community and Regional Development PS, Dr. Susan Koech, wrote a letter on 5th October 2018 to Treasury requesting the release of 3.4 billion shillings as advance payments to the contractor to start work on the dam. The DPP acknowledges 21 billion shillings has already been paid out, with 7.6 billion shillings having been paid out to the contractors. The remainder 14 billion shillings was reportedly paid out as arrangement fees, commitment fees, agency fees and insurance fees. The insurance fee took up most of the money. 11 billion shillings was paid up to Sachet Insurance Company, an Italian company. As the team set up to investigate possible corrupt dealings with regard to the dam saga, they will be looking at where the money could have been lost. Is it at procurement, the kickbacks paid after money was paid, or is it the fees charged after the advance payments were made? The letter from the DPP asked investigators to go as far as tracing every shilling paid out.
The office of the DPP and the office of the DCI, we support what you are doing. But we as a party have said that there is too much talk and too little action.
When we tell DCI, when we tell
EACC conduct credible investigations, take the right people to court and charge them and secure convictions. We are not saying it because we do not want corruption to be fought. Lakini ukiongea unaambiwa huyo anapigana na vita dhidi ya ufisadi. Sisi tunapigana na vita ya uongo, ya propaganda na upuzi ya kujifanya tunapigana na ufisadi wakati ni siasa tunafanya na maisha ya wengine.
The DCI and DPP teams will also be looking into concerns that the contractor who got the job is not the one who was paid. They will also be looking into who are the signatories to the contract and who are the real owners of the companies mentioned and what their influence was. Kennedy Muredi, NTV.
And the reason I wanted to play this is because it's been offered up as proof of this politics of exclusion. Those people who are saying that this whole damn scandal probe is being politicized.
You know, Olive, let me finish out by saying, by talking about the handshake when you started on the first clip that you heard. One, we all agreed that the handshake has actually brought something good. But what would we have expected further? You see, post 2007, 2008, and after the good judge, Hansen Kriegler, left, we were dealing with matters Agenda 4, not to be confused with the Big Four agenda. I would have thought the handshake opened up a platform where now we would sit and discuss these things. The president and the prime minister, the former prime minister, have actually talked about the very same thing, that blood should never be spilled again in this land just because of an election. I would have expected this time we start talking about injecting maximum reforms into our electoral governance. I would have expected to be talking about inclusivity that was captured on Agenda 4. I'd have expected for us to be talking about the Ndungu's report. I'd have expected for us to talk about so many things that were part of the blueprint that Johansen Kriegler left. Why? Because we, at least for the first time in a long time, have a platform that we could now engage. And I thought that was part of why the handshake came in. Apparently, that is not what is happening at this point. And that's why I'm so weary when politicians at this point have started going the way they, you know, the route rather, that they have taken. What do we stand to lose? First of all, we are going to lose the gains that the very same politicians are talking about, for instance, in cost. When you say the handshake, you know, came in as a con game, I won't use those words, because the very same person you're talking about, the DP, back in the day, it would have been very hard for him to conduct a political meeting at the coast, in Kilifi. I mean, that was an ODM go zone. The handshake has actually allowed this to happen. And by the way, this handshake, if you look at it with, if you remove the political lens, you know, we've done this disservice of every time looking at things through political lenses. If you remove that, you would see that it also allows every politician, if you're really talking about matters 2022, it gives them a ground when the time comes to campaign in every or any region that they so choose. So it is a good thing. What I think is happening is that that handshake is being hijacked by politicians. Now, when they hijack it, they will start throwing the words we are hearing back to back. And I will not relent in saying, let us allow the officers that are mandated to tell us facts. Because anytime a politician starts saying that I'm telling you that I know, they do not know. The person who has the capacity to investigate, the person who has the capacity to look even into the bank dealings, you know, that's the DPP, the DCI, and EACC. Those are the institutions that should be telling us factuals about the corruption cases that we are dealing with. Because at the end of the day, Olive, it's just like what my good brother Monyu here said. We will talk a lot. We will be told about billions a lot. But when somebody stands in the dock, you realize it's not billions that were being talked about, it's millions. And by the way, they end up walking, which to Kenyans now, it will be another, I would say, heightened collapse, if you will, of their, my goodness, we thought this was heading somewhere.
Olive.
Okay, Charles,
yes.
and we really do need to start making our final remarks.
Yes.
What does it mean for Jubilee? apart from the just that is just being offered up as I mean, now it's become politicized, the whole issue of the dams.
Yes.
But what does it mean for Jubilee? Because clearly one camp is unhappy, and they're saying they're being pushed out of government, so to speak. Yeah. But DP Ruto had said tutakanyagana tu hapo ndani ya wapi? Ndani ya Jubilee. Then there are those who are saying if you're unhappy, there's the door. What does this mean for the Jubilee Party?
I think that's the wrong language to use, even for our leaders, with a lot of respect, because Jubilee is about the four agenda items, and one of them is about food security, and you cannot do food security without irrigation, without dams. So the people of Kimarel would really want to know what's happening around that dam, because to them it's more important than the politicians that we have. Right. They want that water. Right. They actually do need that water. So the politics around it, they might not have the microphone, they might not come to NTV to air their view, but I'm sure the ones that are watching are very concerned that there was money allocated by Jubilee to have a dam here, and people are playing politics about 2022, this is being targeted. What do you want to do in 2022 when you have an opportunity to have a dam right now, today, actually a year ago? And that should be the concern, and I want to believe that's a concern of the people of that particular place. In terms of Jubilee, it should not be either or. That the fact that there is a handshake, now Raila is working with Uhuru, Ruto must be out of the arrangement. I think that the moment we start going that direction, then we'll have lost it completely. And I think there are politicians who lost it when Raila started working with Jubilee, because their work, their mandate, every day they used to wake up and plan on how they're going to attack Raila and get paid for the same, or at least their profile politically rises in their respective regions. And also on the other side, Nyanza, there are people who used to wake up, attack Uhuru and Jubilee and Ruto, and their profiles would rise. I think those are the guys now who are reorganizing around the deputy president, telling him now, you need to step out, to look like you're opposing everything that's going on, because again, they want to build their profiles, saying their people are being targeted, the region is being targeted. Those guys will sail through in 2022 in their respective positions at the expense of the deputy president. That is a reality. Ruto must stick to Jubilee, to the Jubilee agenda of fighting corruption, of improving on devolution. We have seen that going on, and he was there. He talked very nice things about how devolution should be improved, on inclusivity, on matters of electoral reforms. Those are the issues Jubilee is articulating, and those are the issues Ruto must stick to. These are the shenanigans about politics of 2022, and we have seen very clearly, money was lost. We don't know how it was lost and to who. Stories are just happening. The DCI, the DPP, all these offices are investigating that. Why don't we take a week to a month, get valid information from the right offices, and then we take people to court? To me, Jubilee is intact unless William wants to implode himself, because if he has the capacity to implode, everyone has a capacity to implode, because it's about you. You don't need anybody else from outside to implode. It is you. So if he has that capacity, he must not allow court jesters to pull him out of this arrangement. It's a good arrangement for him, and it's a good arrangement for this country. Okay. It is not either or, it is about all of us.
Unfortunately, we do have to bring that conversation to a close at this point. We will take it forward at another time. Their Twitter handles are at Muduma Gabriel, at Munywe Charles, and mine is at Burrows. You know, the DP did say at the devolution conference that he has nothing personally against Raila, and competition is good. True. What say you? Thank you for watching NTV today. We make way for NTV Sasa.
This is NTV.